Hi, I'm going to take you through top tips for automating the Chrome browser. These tips will take your browser automation skills from novice to pro quickly. I'm Alex Barlow, co-founder of Axiom. Let's dive in. A quick bit of context before we go through the steps one by one. These tips are for Axiom, a browser automation tool that works on Chrome, works for Edge, any Chrome derivative browser. You can install it via our website, Axiom.ai, but it's also available in the Chrome store as it is a Chrome extension. You can run your automations in the cloud on the desktop. You can also schedule them and interact with other automation tools such as Make and Zapier. Okay, so that's the bit of context. Now I'm just going to take you back to the blog post and start taking you through the top tips one by one. Top tip number 1, how to select button clicks using just text. Now, I'm just going to use install the Chrome extension button I'm circling around here for the purpose of showing you how to select a button using just text. I'm going to open up Axiom. I've got a go-to page and this is a select element step. Now normally selecting a button, you just do this, press select, hover over the button, press click, it turns orange, it's been selected by Axiom, Axiom knows how to click it. And most of the time that's going to work for you, but just in case it doesn't, there's another way. You can select a button by the text in it. And this is how you do that. You press select, you press custom, and then you just tick this box. Use element text instead of HTML. You can see it's got the text. I'm just highlighting it down there in the corner, and we can see it's the text of the button. You can also manually type text in there, and then to complete the text selection, press complete. Axiom will now search for the button text and not use the selector. So that's another way to do a button click. I found that really useful when automating Instagram. There was a pop-up that appeared only during runtime, and it had text in a button saying not now that I could click to close it. Now I didn't know what selector to use. I couldn't use the point and click unless I paused the bot during runtime. But even then I realized that I couldn't do that. I would have to use the Chrome inspector. So it was very hard, but by using the text selector, it became easy. I just added the click element, I ticked the box, and I typed in not now, and it worked. So give this method a go if you get stuck. Remember, you can select a button click by the text in the button. Top tip number 2, how to prevent errors when buttons aren't always present on a page. So first of all, if you add a click element step to interact with a button, and that button isn't always on a page, but the Axiom tries to click it during runtime, Axiom will throw an error and your automation will stop. But if you want it to continue, there's an easy way to solve this. I'm just going to open up Axiom and show you how quickly. It's as simple as doing this. Now I've got my click element here, my click element step that's doing the click on a button. Now I know that button's not going to be on every page, but as my Axiom loops through those pages, I don't want it to stop if it can't find the button. Well, all you need to do is click this optional click. Now Axiom, if it can't find that button, it will just continue on looping through the rest of the automation. Top tip number 3, how to keep your Axiom running despite errors. Now, when you're running your Axiom, if it throws an error because a bit of content is missing off a page or a step is not set up correctly, the Axiom will normally stop and give you an error message and help you fix that issue. But sometimes in your automations, there are going to be errors that you want to ignore, override, and force the Axiom to keep running. Let me just show you how you can do this with continue on error. I'm going to open up this Axiom. Now it's a setting that is present in every Axiom, and you have to set it individually in each Axiom. So you can do it here by just going up to the top right hand corner menu, pressing settings, and then I'm going to look for continue on error, tick the box. Now this Axiom will continue on error, it will ignore the errors, and it will keep running. Top tip number 4, how to speed up your web scraping in Chrome. I'm just going to open up Axiom. Here's our Get Data step, our standardized scraping tool for the web, where you can just point and click and select what you want to scrape. You can scrape listing pages or single pages. Now, sometimes you're going to want to speed that scraping up, and you can do by clicking on configuration here. It's a fairly new feature in Axiom, in fact. Now you've got a series of settings here. The first two are the most important. Scroll time, so you can vary the scroll time. So that's how quickly Axiom will scroll down a page. At the moment, we've got it on 5 seconds between each scroll, and that's to allow time for content to load, because content is loaded dynamically as you scroll. The other setting is retries. Now, content doesn't load onto a page all in one go. It loads slowly basically in units. It will load into the page. And that's why we do retries, to go back and check if the content's finished loading in case we're scraping too quickly. So by default, we have 2 retries in there. Now, if you think you see your page loading in quickly and you're on a fast internet connection, you can just probably take that right down to 0. I often do that on Amazon product pages. You can also reduce the scroll down to about 3,000. But word of warning, if you do make adjustments, you need to check and test, because if you go too far the other way, you may get more missing data because the scroll is too fast and content isn't loading. Vice versa, if scraping a static page and you're not doing any retries and that content is being slow loading, the scrape may trigger before the content has appeared. So do incremental steps down. Test as you make those adjustments. Test. Once you've got them perfected, once you're happy with them, then do your run. Top tip number 5, the key press. The key press is the one to keep in your back pocket. It's the get out of jail card. Now, let me open up Axiom and show you the key press step. What does it do? Well, it records your key presses or your keystrokes. Just press record and start tapping away on the keyboard. But what would you use the key press for? So, for example, you have a pop-up that appears and you want to close it, but you don't know how to click that button. It's most likely you'll be able to record a series of tabs to select that button and then press return to close it. Another use for tabs and returns are forms. A tab will let you switch, basically cycle through form elements. So you go from one input to the next input to the next, and then a return will click the submit button. So that's another really useful key press. You can, of course, also scroll a window or a box using a key press. Simply click into it using a click element and then record some up or down arrows, depending which way you want to scroll it. There's so much you can do with the key press. Look for shortcuts in applications that you're trying to automate that you could use a key press for. It's a really useful step to use when there's a problem that you've encountered and you're not quite sure how to solve it. See if you can do it with the keyboard. A lot of you. Top tip number 6, getting the last day of the previous month. This is one for all those people automating report generation. Now, we've got a step that just lets you get the last day of the month. Look for our date and time step. Just enter date and you'll see it here. Press custom. Select last day of previous month. Select the format you want. Now remember, hyphens are allowed if you're using a date or passing a date into a file format. Forward slashes or backward slashes, they aren't. Cool. Hopefully you found that useful. Top tip number 7. You can now upload files or download files in the Cloud Runner. Previously, you were limited to doing file management on the desktop version of Axiom only, but now you can upload files directly into a Google Drive or download them into a Google Drive. That's pretty cool. Let me just show you Axiom. Open it up. I'm not going to show you how to set up the steps. It's really easy. Inside an interact step, add step, type in Google to do the search, and you'll see the steps here. All you need to do is click to add them. Cool. Top tip number 8, how to tell Axiom to switch to a new window or a pop-up. Why do you need to do this? Well, if Axiom's running in a window and if you click on a link that opens up a pop-up or a new tab and you want Axiom to automate the new tab, the new pop-up, it won't do it unless you tell it to switch to run into that tab or run in that pop-up. So we've got a step that allows you to tell Axiom to switch to the new tab. It's pretty easy to use. Open up Axiom, search for tab, switch browser tab. Now, leave it on last opened and it'll just switch to the tab or the pop-up that's just opened, or you can specify a number. Number 1 is the original tab in your Chrome window. Number 2, etc. goes along towards the right to the highest number being the last tab to have opened. Cool. Top tip number 9, joining separate pieces of data in Axiom. Now, this is a really handy one I use all the time. So I know I've just whizzed through a few top tips, but this one will take a little longer, but it's really handy. So you may be building an Axiom and you've got separate data sources, like I'm reading some data from a Google Sheet here and I'm scraping some data here. Now, all that data is available and I can pass it on to other steps. But what if I want to put it together into a single lump, for want of a better word, because it hasn't popped into my mind, and I want to then write that data to a sheet? Well, this is how I do it. I can use the append step. I search for append, click on the step. Now it gives me data option A, data option B. Now to get the Google Sheet data, I just select the Google Sheet, I've got the data, and then the scraping data will be the interact data there because it's inside the interact step. Now that data is appended, and I've done it horizontally here, and you see the columns have been added on. Now if I want to write that data all together into a sheet, I can just write data to a Google Sheet, select my sheet, and you can see I can just pass the appended data into that sheet. Now, if I wanted to be even flashier, I could, and I've got more data to append, you can actually insert append steps inside of append steps. I hope you find that useful. The final top tip, number 10, how to combine several axioms into one. So I'm going to open up Axiom, surprise, surprise, create a blank automation this time, and I'm going to search for Axiom, run another Axiom, and here, and I'm going to do the same to add another step. And just by doing that, I'll get a list of the axioms I've made, not actions. And I can basically combine those axioms together to form one big, powerful axiom. Now, why would you want to do this? This is part of architecturing bigger axioms. So if you're doing a more complicated automation where you've got lots of steps, split that automation down into separate axioms. For example, you could split it into uploads, downloads, or into an axiom per page of a form. And then you can combine that axiom back together in one single controller axiom. Because that way it's simpler to debug. It's simpler to understand where one axiom is going wrong because you can run them individually and you can run them together. I just want to say thank you for watching. I hope you enjoy Axiom as much as we do and you like the magic of watching your browser being automated. We do appreciate there's a learning curve. That's why we're working hard at improving Axiom's UI. We've got a new nesting feature coming out that makes Axiom about 30% easier to use. We're going to have ChatGPT integrations. That's out the very next release. We're going to be doing more documentation and, of course, lots of videos from me. But we also offer great support. So reach out if you get stuck or there's something you want to learn. We've got Slack channels on our payment tiers, so you can just get online and you'll speak to us directly. Thank you for watching.